You are listening to Packers Talk Radio Network.
PackersTalk.com. Eddie Lacy, Mike Daniels, Gilbert Brown, Don Barclay, Micah Hyde, your Green Bay Packers, yesterday's legends and today's superstars. From corporate or non-profit events to private parties, add some spice, hire a Packers player from Mayfield Sports Marketing. For details, just go to PackersTalk.com and click on Player Appearances.
Are you looking for some signed Packer memorabilia?
Look no further than Waukesha Sports Card.
If a Green Bay Packer can sign it, Waukesha Sports Cards has it.
Check our website for upcoming Packer player and legend signings.
Go to WaukeshaSportsCards.com.
So we was talking to the commissioner the other day, and he said, "How you doing, sir? What can I do for you? And I told him I need you to bring back something. Football back. We in the crowd screaming out, football back. It's kickoff time. We in love with the money. These chickens shaking they pom-pom. Cheerleaders, my honeys, we yelling football back.
Welcome to the 2-Pack. He's Nick. I'm Alex. There's two of us, and we talk about the Packers. That's why it is called the 2-Pack. You could find us on Twitter at Nick Bornheimer and at Alex Petakas. First edition of this podcast, so we're getting our feet wet, coming to you live from a New York City backyard. An echoey one at that, and it's weird to be kind of like the washed up media guys this early in our life. Like we're entering kind of our prime years, and we're already the jaded, washed up media guys.
Yeah, and in entering week 12 of the season, just as we're breaking into this podcast, seems a little poetic as the washed up media guys, but that's how we're going to do it. We're going to roll with it.
When there's hot takes to be had, and there's a lot of juicy controversy. I wouldn't even call it controversy,
it's just
but
bad football.
Yeah, bad football. We're all over it because I'm Alex Petakas. He's Nick Bornheimer. You got that from the Twitter handles. But when we were covering the Packers and they're just winning all the time last season for ESPN Wisconsin, it got kind of boring.
It was boring. We had to kind of search for our lead and our angle each time because it was just win after win. But now it's juicy, and we kind of wish we were still there. But we're going to do it from here.
Yeah, couldn't resist. So we're back in it, and we thank the people at PackersTalk.com for allowing us to kind of get into this entire Packers Talk Net thing. So we're going to get right into it. We're going to have some fun, but we also got to get to a lot of serious things that are going on in Packerland, starting with the offense. Obviously, Thanksgiving Day sucked. Like, there's absolutely no way around that. And I don't mean, like, I had a bad time with my family. Just that game, the way that ended, like, no one went to sleep on Thanksgiving night.
That's not how you're supposed to end things. You stuff your face, you get a little drunk, you take a nap, you wake up, you get excited, and then that happens. Just a stinker of a football game.
Just brutal. I think the only real good feeling I had, and this probably is also because I was actually legitimately angry at Eddie Lacy when they did score their lone touchdown of the game. The only like real positive feeling I had was watching Bart Starr and Brett Favre, and then watching also Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers. But no way around it. Like, the problems with this offense that existed a few weeks ago still exist, and I think it kind of just starts with the wide receivers. And I kind of want to get to almost each one of them because
one of the wide receivers,
right? Well, I think we can probably skip over like James Jones. I think we know what he is, but
well, do we? I don't know if we know what he is. I mean, we can unpack that later, but you see him with the hoodie, and he goes out and balls and goes for over 100 yards and gets open and makes ridiculous catches on Aaron Rodgers' laser beams, and then the next week he doesn't get open. It's puzzling, but
I think he's a receiver who's in his 30s who on broken plays Aaron Rodgers is going to trust, and oftentimes when corners like get in his face and get physical and they're playing man coverage, he's not going to get open because he's old. Like, to me, that's what he. I mean, I could be dead wrong on that. I mean, early in the season it looked different, but again, like 30 plus year old legs late in the season, like that's what happens. But I want to just start by kind of just talking about Randall Cobb a little bit. And I find it really interesting that you have a great quarterback. And I remember I was listening to the Pro Football Focus podcast, and Sam Munson was saying this at Pro Football Focus. Like, you have a great quarterback and a really, really good weapon in Randall Cobb. And you have 2 games ago now, a guy like Davante Adams, who has been struggling severely, getting 20-plus targets. I mean, in 3 games, 30-plus balls being thrown his way. Mm-hmm. And to me, that's the hardest thing to accept, right? Like, that's the hardest thing is when if you have a weapon like Cobb, you know, when the Patriots have a guy that they want to get the ball to, Edelman, right? Let's just say Edelman or Gronk, whatever. But Edelman's more comparable, slot receiver, this, that, and the other. They're going to just feed him a high volume of footballs.
And they scheme him open.
Right. The Packers, it seems like, well, you know, he's going to line up in the slot, and he's going to run his routes, and occasionally we'll put him at running back. And if he's not getting open, we'll just continue to throw the ball to 17. And, you know, he's basically got a guy blanketed all over him, and he's been throwing 21 balls and had 7 catches for 80 yards, which when you're throwing 21 passes, that's not even good.
No, it's terrible. I don't know. I listened to Rob Domofsky, who we used to work pretty closely with, writes as part of the ESPN Nation reporters. He is the Packers beat guy, and he was on Russillo and Danny Cannell earlier, even though both of them were not on. It was real.
I don't even think you're wrong to say. It doesn't matter what the name of the show is at that point.
Regardless,
it's a holiday feeling radio.
He was talking, and
which isn't always bad, by the way.
Very good point. But he brought up an interesting point about Randall Cobb and this year being in the slot, not being able to, gain as much separation off the line, because in years past, Jordy Nelson could take the top off the defense and run guys out of defensive coverages. Now, even in the slot, your good cornerbacks can kind of converge on him, and all of a sudden, Randall Cobb's getting doubled, and you don't have to even put a guy on Davante Adams. It seems like he's either going to not run his route right or drop a ball or whatever it might be. So there's something to be said about the receiving core. There's something to be said about
the loss of Jordy, I think, is what that all is, probably, right?
Yeah, well, I don't know if that's all of it, but it has a...
Well, I mean, they've always been a matchup. Okay, how many times do we hear the cliche, football's a game of matchups, but it really is, because what Jordy did is take a ton of attention away and basically guarantee that if you're going to he's going to line up on the boundary, and if you're going to have your corner on him, oftentimes you're going to need to give that corner safety help. And that, allows a guy like Cobb to thrive over the middle of the field, right? Now it's like, I mean, if I'm putting together a defensive game plan, do you even blink at having a league average corner on an island against Davante Adams right now?
No, and it's amazing the praise that Davante Adams got in June from not only McCarthy but from 12. And when you command that kind of respect as a second-year guy from the reigning MVP of the National Football League, you think, from a fan's perspective or from a media guy's perspective, you think, wow, we should, kind of keep an eye on this guy. And he was the number 3 wide receiver coming into the year at that point, because Jordy was 1 and obviously Randall Cobb was 2.
Yeah.
So you think if you've got that kind of production or potential production out of a number 3, you're looking good. Now all of a sudden we're going into week 12 and with a gigantic question mark.
Yeah. So here's another, speaking of gigantic question marks, and I wanted to get into this too. I hate what Jeff Janis has become. And I know, I feel like when we tweet out this podcast, a big, one of the things, if we're trying to sum it up in 140 characters and tweet it out, it's going to be something about thoughts on Jeff Janis, because he's polarizing, and, Packers fans either love him. I wouldn't really say Packers fans hate him, but Packer media, this is what I hate about what Jeff Janis has become, because the way that fans and media alike, and I'm a fan, and I was in the media, and I don't know if I still am, but the way that fans react immediately when Jeff Janis goes and scores preseason touchdowns is, oh my God, this guy's great. We need to get him the ball, right? He's going to make the team. He's got to be active. We need to feed him more, this, that, and the other. So all the media guys, you were there covering the team, me hosting a show, I have to, basically just kind of bat these callers down when they call in talking about how Janis needs to play over this guy and that guy, and he's better than this guy already. You almost have to go so far to the other end of the spectrum to try to make overreacting fans realize that you have to have perspective and that preseason doesn't matter that much, and that Jeff Janis, while he might score touchdowns every time he gets the football in the preseason in the third quarter of a game when no one cares, is not practicing well. He's not on the field for a reason.
What that reason is kind of unbeknownst to us outside of the outside of the meeting rooms, but it's so puzzling,
right?
Especially the amount of receptions or looks that Devontae still had in that game. Well, I mean, you said it earlier, 30
I think
looks.
In 3 games, he's got over 30 targets, which is an insane rate. So, but what happens then is you have all the media, right, and all the fans here, perspective, this, that, and the other, battling so hard against the Jeff Janis supporters and overreaction, that what happens then is anything pro Janis is all of a sudden invalid. And what I mean by that is my question is, and I feel like I've tweeted this out before and people get weird about it or try to be oh, look at this guy, is how bad can he be in practice to where every time he gets the ball in a game he does something exciting, almost every time, but they still don't want to put him on the field. He's the opposite of All Oneida. All Oneida is the guy who just shows up at training camp. All Oneida is DeAndre Burrell, all the guys like that. The names escape me right now.
Yeah.
But just Jerome Elliott was All Oneida until this year. Until this year. Now he actually plays. But so Jeff Janis is the opposite of All Oneida because he's not on the field, clearly because, I don't know, if he can't grasp the offense or whatever, but he comes on the field and he makes plays.
Special teams.
So if you say anything pro Janis, the media just crushes you. And Nick, it's hard for me to believe that in a receiving core that's being criticized for being slow and being really easy to cover, that giving him more reps, as broken as Devontae Adams' confidence seems, wouldn't be a good thing. Just have him, dude, run a 9 route and make the safety help the corner because he can't keep up with you because you're that fast. Isn't there some validity to the Janis thing now?
As much as it, and I don't even know if it pains me to say it because, I mean, early on that was a hot take. Jeff Janis comes in, preseason has a couple big games. Miles White has a couple big games, but there's no way they're not taking Janis over Miles White. But it's still at the same time, it's our wide receiving core is set. He's just a weird subplot in this wide receiving tandem that we have. And for somebody to call in when it was Alex and Drew were into Homer and Gabe and say, oh, I think Jeff Janis needs the ball more, it was blasphemous because he was unproven. He was a guy who was just fast and you didn't really have a good feel for him. But now you watch what he did against the Vikings on one of those touchdown drives where he came back to the ball and drew contact and drew that 50-yard pass interference call. That's a heads-up play, kind of.
It's a heads-up play, but it's not even that. It's that if Rodgers gets more on the ball, and that's asking so much, but it's Aaron Rodgers, it's a compliment to him to say that he couldn't get that much on the ball, he probably scores.
Because he's that much faster than everybody else. He's the fastest wide receiver on the field for the Packers right now if he's on the field, right?
Yeah, hands down, right? I mean, I guess you could argue with Cobb, but Cobb, straight line speed isn't going to come close to Janis.
So that's what, I mean, I just look back to those 2011 years when Rodgers would play action and Jordy would just knock the top off the defense and he was gone. They don't have anything like that. And
right.
I don't think that Janis is anywhere comparable to Jordy Nelson, but even some small, more marginalized fraction of that, it gives you a little more hope and can spread out the defense, get a couple guys out of the box. And I don't know if this has to become a run-heavy team or what it is at this point because wide receivers can't get open, et cetera, but they were running the ball pretty well on the Chicago Bears, and they just kind of got away from it. 2
questions for you. Before I want to get deeper into something that I feel like is a little bit of a silver lining and might be just a little bit of a dose of optimism when everything has seemed so bleak for Packers Nation. First question.
Okay.
Do you think that Devontae Adams on Thanksgiving night, like in the fourth quarter, didn't want to be thrown the ball. I don't want to say this. I'm not like bashing his character. I'm saying this if you think about the human element.
Yeah.
And I'm saying this as someone who, like, granted, like, I mean, I played like high school football, but I did play receiver, and I'm telling you, like, when you start dropping passes and you get in your own head, there probably comes a time. It's like a shortstop, right? Someone tweeted this at me when I actually asked that question on Twitter. It's like a shortstop who's muffed, like, who has like 2 errors in the game. Mm-hmm. At some point, that shortstop is thinking, God, I hope this guy in a big spot where runners on second and third and 2 outs doesn't hit me the ball. Like, can't he just pop out to shallow right? You know, like, does he have to hit a screamer right at me? Do you think Devontae Adams? Because I don't know what it is. Like, I don't think he gets open, but it doesn't. I mean, I hate being body language guy. Does it look like he's like running his routes to win? I don't know if he just can't get open or if he's like half-assing it. Like that Rodgers interception, dude. He didn't.
Don't even get me started on that. And I
against the Vikings again, the interception on the slant route. Yeah,
I don't hate that you're body language guy right there, because I think there's a lot to be said about that. The way that you carry yourself on the field, like look at like a Julian. I know we're going back to Julian Edelman for some reason. I don't really know why, but look at how
we were talking about white guys before. Yeah. That would have been one to bring up Julian Edelman.
But I mean, here it is. Like he's a guy who's not. He doesn't seem overly athletic. Doesn't seem like he's gonna, burn you. And that's not like being like race bias. It's just like how he is, I think, or maybe it is. Who knows? But he just
no, it's not.
But he just carries.
He's a little garden gnome. But that's what it is.
But he just carries himself like with so much like intensity and authority on the field. And Devontae Adams, no. Like, to answer your question, and not to drag out my answer, it looked like he was shying away from the ball. And the weirdest thing is everybody, whether you were at the game or whether you were watching on TV like you and I were, you could see that. Yet Clemens and McCarthy and Rodgers kept giving him the ball. And he kept screwing up. And I'll look up the stat in a little bit, but there's some staggering numbers about when Rodgers targeted Devontae Adams in that game.
Yeah.
His passer rating was 0. Like, Adams had, I don't know if it was 4 receptions. I'll look it up in a second, but I think it was 4 receptions. He had 3 or 4 drops, and it was like 14 yards total. And I don't know what it is. And
the interception.
And
which like hurts you more, is way more negative than anything else.
And I definitely tweeted this out and talked to Gabe Neitzel of the Homer and Gabe Institute.
We were plugging ESPN Wisconsin like crazy.
We have to. And he said the same thing. Like everybody on Twitter said the exact same thing. Like nobody thought that interception was on Rodgers. And not to be a Rodgers apologist, because I do think part of the blame for this 5-game terrible skid that the Packers have been on, he has to own some of that.
Right.
But, Jesus.
Well, no, yeah. I'm just thinking, like, game on the... Right, it's just this exact situation. Game on the line, right? It's 4th and goal. It's Thanksgiving night. It's the Favre game. Bart Starr made his way there. You're thinking to yourself, how could we lose this?
Or are you going Dayton Jones slap in the face?
Yeah, well, that was a great quote. Dayton Jones in the locker room after apparently said that he felt like it was a slap in the face to Brett Favre. But that situation, you've already made so many mistakes, and especially over the past few games that you've lost, like in 4 out of 5 games, him being a big reason why he's getting all these opportunities and not capitalizing whatsoever. Does he want that pass? Like, I know people say, like, if you're like in basketball, right? Like if you don't want the last shot, I don't want you on my team. I don't know if I blame Devontae Adams if he doesn't want the ball. It's just something I thought of.
I don't know. So I kind of like this approach. You think it's more of like a yips thing than it is like an overall talent
thing. I don't know. We haven't seen enough from Devontae Adams to say that it is a yips thing. I'm just telling you. I think even at that level, right? Even as a professional competitor, someone who's just done nothing but dominate like their world. When Devontae Adams was growing up, he was probably like the best kid on the playground. When he's in high school, he's the best kid in high school. He's a man, nothing but swag and confidence. But when you get in that spot, I think it would be easy to have your confidence broken. Because you're like, when the best quarterback in the game keeps throwing you the ball 21 times in a game and you can't make anything happen, I'm telling you, at some point, I'm wondering if he's thinking, damn, you want to throw 89 the ball? Like,
It's
you want to
weird
run?
that
Let's
they-
run the
I
ball.
mean,
I'm a block.
You think your confidence would be restored if they kept coming back to you, though? I don't know.
Maybe that's part of the reason why they do.
I
It could be,
There's
right?
part of me who thinks that they were so high on him, and I think McCarthy's a pretty stubborn dude, and we know Aaron Rodgers is a pretty stubborn dude.
Yeah.
If they're high on a guy, they want to prove not only to themselves but to all the people that they were advocating for Devontae Adams too. That what he is a talent and he is the guy that we thought he was.
Right.
I don't know if they're holding on too long. He's a Ted Thompson guy. Was part of that draft class a couple years ago. That was a pretty good draft class. It's tough to say.
Yeah. All right. I'm gonna grab another beer.
Yep.
And then I'm going to give you my silver lining, and I want to know what you think about it, because I think there's some reason for optimism given health to a particular player. Again, it's the first two-pack podcast. He's Nick, covered the team under Jason Wilde at ESPN Wisconsin for a little bit, for like a minute.
Yeah.
I did enough shows on ESPN Wisconsin to gain 10 Twitter followers, and then it got just fell off the face of the earth. But we're here to talk Packers and have some fun. So the silver lining, I think, is in a guy wearing number 88. I do think Ty Montgomery can be a little bit of a difference maker in this offense. And yes, we did take a huge break because I am used to doing segmented radio, and I'm a total diva, and I pee every break. When we were doing live radio, how many times did I run out, throw the squishy football we have in the office 3 times, be like, yo, run a go route, and throw you a pass and then go pee. I can't do this podcasting stuff. I can't go all the way through. I can't play through.
It's amazing that you have to, convey such full disclosure right now because nobody's got to know. But you just got you're such an honest guy that it's important for you to know that, hey, while we were away, I had to pee really bad.
Yeah, I did, but you know what happened? I went out there and someone's in there.
In the bathroom?
Yeah, in the bathroom. So, like I said, we're coming to you from a New York City backyard, where both of us have relocated to, and there's a public bathroom, and it was in use. So I kind of had to make do, much like the skee ball.
Yeah, you'll hear some skee ball going on because we're in some weird back room at a bar, basically.
Yeah, the two-pack studios are classy as hell. But a great time. Anytime when we're recording this, we're having an awesome time because at any point we could just stop it and go play skee ball or shoot pool. Or do anything of that nature. But no, I really did want to get into Ty Montgomery because I don't know when he's going to be back. And
God, I thought it was going to be weeks ago.
I know,
and it was so misleading because I'm like an injury report nerd. Every time the injury report comes out,
I don't know what your deal is with that.
I just love.
We'll be sitting there at work and be like, oh, inactives, or whoop. DNP for Ty Montgomery, and I'll be like, cool. It's Wednesday.
I know that I don't think McCarthy's as reserved as Belichick is, who Tom Brady for years was always on the injury report as a probable shoulder or something. But I think there's something to be said about when Ty Montgomery 3 weeks ago was a probable or a questionable, and he was practicing. And then all of a sudden he's downgraded and doubtful. And I don't know how severe this ankle injury is. And the weirdest thing is, and you're probably going to get to this, but nobody's talking about the fact that he's not playing. Nobody's talking about the fact that he's not practicing. And I think he might be a serious key to getting this offense back on track.
I think we saw glimpses, and people call him Randall, body-wise, Randall Cobb on steroids, whatever. And I don't want to compare him to anyone because there's so little production and actual evidence of what he can do there. But I think you started to see some really cool things from him. Are you ready for this? So I'm gonna harken back. All right. So let's rewind it back first.
Okay.
I was doing a draft night show with Gabe Neitzel of ESPN Wisconsin, and we both loved the Ty Montgomery pick, but also loved mocking it because I really, really trust and appreciate the analysis that Pro Football Focus aims to give, and they've expanded and they do all the college stuff now. So they did all these full scouting reports, and the scouting report on Ty Montgomery which I read like as soon as they drafted him, said that you don't want him playing receiver for your team. Like that was literally how it starts. Like you do not want Ty Montgomery playing receiver team. But again, context. They were saying that he may actually be a pretty serviceable running back in the NFL.
Right, because he's broad. He's
a receiving running back,
a big-looking dude.
A big Deion Lewis. Or a bigger Randall Cobb. You want the ball in his hands because you want him to be able to just kind of
Let's
be
just
matched
keep
up
drawing
against,
comparisons to
the Patriots.
Patriots wide receivers.
We should. No, because that's the standard. Like that's the main standard in the NFL. But no. So what I was saying was like we always like harken back to that. And I thought because of that, like I don't know if this guy is going to be an NFL receiver, like a real, I don't know. Like I'm going to trust Pro Football Focus, man. These guys know like 10 times more than anyone, or at least than me.
And I'm always a little reluctant to because he's the all-time leading kick. I don't know if it's special teams in totality, right? Or if it was all-purpose yards, or if it was just yards accrued on kick and punt returns. But in Stanford history. He holds the mark. But those numbers are always a little skewed because guys who are really good, like the Leonard Fournettes or the Reggie Bushes, they're always going to come out early.
Right.
So take that with a grain of salt. But that's an impressive statistic.
Yeah. So all basically what I was getting to is all I want right now is Ty Montgomery to play receiver for my team. And I have no idea if he really can get open. And I just harken back to I think Ty Montgomery in a weird way forces, or at least began to force, the Packers offense to be really creative. So I've got a sheet. I literally have a tiny sheet of notebook paper because I have a regular job now, and I just sit at work. And when I'm supposed to be working,
you're charting.
I'm charting a full drive, and I'm watching NFL. I pay
exactly
$80 a month to be able to watch the all 22 for the Packers because I'm a freak. But
you're not a freak. You're just a man who has a passion.
So I thought he was he was productive in the Chiefs game. But even before that, from week 2 to week 5 were the Ty Montgomery golden days, man. And they're so short-lived. And I want to, see him develop because what happened, it was at Seattle.
No. Well, right. It was against Seattle at home.
It was the Seattle game. And, I remember when watching that and just thinking that's a drive that's going to make me so confident in this team as the year goes forward because – right, I remember, we're watching the game. They started so hot against Seattle. And then Seattle finally kind of battled back. And going into the fourth quarter was up 17-16.
Yeah.
And the Packers had an 80-yard touchdown drive. And it was – you know what it was? It was the same – it was the type of offense that they played against the Patriots last year in the regular season. Because I remember thinking to myself – that might be one of the best games Mike McCarthy has ever coached. That might be one of the most creative games, and it's because they use Randall Cobb in all these unique ways. I remember I wrote about it at ESPNWisconsin.com. They lined him up at H-back, running back, slot receiver, outside receiver, motion here, motion there, and just creating matchup problems. There were a few times in that game where Rob Ninkovich was covering Randall Cobb.
Yep, it's scheme, and he tried to. That's McCarthy not going. We're gonna put you at wide receiver and you're gonna win your route. It's not rocket science.
Yeah, again, another great quote after that game. When things go bad, great quotes are had.
Yeah,
well, that's a good one.
Yeah,
you should put that on. No, that's a terrible one. But no, so in that, so again, 17-16 against Seattle. All of a sudden, Ty Montgomery barely played. I feel week 1.
He didn't. I don't know if he was on the. I gotta look at this.
So he kind of just burst onto the scene. And out of nowhere, they start getting, again, hyper creative. So Randall Cobb on that drive is lining up at running back. He's lining up in the slot. Ty Montgomery is lining up in the slot right, slot left, outside this, outside that. After that game, he almost was primarily an outside receiver. He kind of took Devontae Adams' job. Well, Devontae Adams got hurt. But he also, he would start – I remember they started the San Francisco game by just throwing him a go route, go win your route.
Yeah.
And it's because he may be one of the few guys on this team who's capable of doing that right now. But there were 2 plays on that drive that I loved. One where Cobb was in the backfield.
So
and it was
just
so
to clarify, this is the drive after the Packers go down 17
after
to 16.
Seattle takes its first lead.
They took their first lead in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, and you're like, oh my god, they're gonna get us again.
Right.
You know,
okay.
like,
So this is the drive where Aaron Rodgers needs to buck up, and the Packers offense needs to buck up and say, "Hey, we're home.
Right.
I'm gonna do this fourth quarter comeback thing. I know we all love that statistic.
Oh god, yeah.
So
yeah.
okay.
But no, I and again we're going back to week 2, but give us a break. Like, we have a lot of pent up stuff here. You know, we don't have a platform every week. Now we do. Now we can. So I remember like they started doing things that they did against the Patriots in 2014, where Cobb would be in the backfield, and like there'd be like 2 wide receivers to the right. I think it was James Jones. It might have been Devontae. And actually, I think it was Ty Montgomery in the slot. And the outside and slot receiver just run slant routes, and Cobb just runs like it's just a race to the flat. And you're expecting Bobby Wagner, right, like from his Mike linebacker position, to get on out on Randall Cobb. And it's nothing special. Like, it's not rocket science. It's like simple. It's like that easy shit that they talk about on NFL Matchup at like 5:30 in the morning on a Sunday. I don't even know if they do that show. But like Susie Colbert would host,
God,
and Jaws was on there, and Merrill Hodge, factor back. But like they were just the little things they teach you about how like teams just like could easily scheme a guy to be matched up with a linebacker, and it's like boom, like 17-yard gain, and then Ty Montgomery, like lining up in the slot, gets a free release, and he's matched up with like Bobby Wagner, and it's like they got really creative in moving Montgomery and Cobb around, and it was almost like Montgomery became Cobb, and Cobb became like this, just like a running back that they've never had, and they don't like what happens now a lot of times is Cobb will line up in the slot, and some teams will put their best corner on him. Like Josh Norman could cover, the Carolina Panthers, like Josh Norman could line up on Cobb, and they could take their chances against Adams.
It's easy to do right now. You can literally look at their offensive weapons and just have a cornerback follow them around the field. So
to me, that was like almost Montgomery's I belong moment, and it's specifically like he caught a pass. I think it was like a 17-yard gain where he just Bobby Wagner and Richard, like he broke 2 tackles on the play, and it was Richard Sherman and Bobby Wagner, and you could tell like he just gained like uber confidence. And then Randall Cobb ran a drag route, and Ty Montgomery from the opposite side of the formation comes in and blocks
for him.
Like,
I know exactly what you're talking
Thomas.
about.
Like he just, I remember watching that game and being like, hell yeah! Like this guy is just like screaming around the field. And then they come out a week later, and Ty Montgomery catches that touchdown against the Chiefs, and it was kind of a broken play. Week after that, they throw him a go route on the first. Like you could just kind of feel him being integrated into the offense, and we've seen that happen with guys before. I mean, you kind of felt it with Cobb a little bit when he really first came on. And you just felt like, okay, it's clear to me that by the end of this season, Ty Montgomery's going to be better than Devontae Adams, and he's going to be more of a feature like piece in the offense. And it just stopped because he got hurt.
Yeah.
And what's baffling now is there's no it feels like there's no creativity. Like where is the stuff that they were doing against the Patriots and that they started to do against Seattle, where they're just like it's just simple stuff. It's like, let's create matchup problem, but they don't even do it anymore because it's like they don't even have enough bodies. So I honestly think if Montgomery comes back and he's healthy, that they can get back to that, and they can start feeding, like we said like minutes ago on this podcast, like Cobb needs volume. Like he just needs like the Edelman, like just like the treatment, like just like keep throwing him passes, like just line him up everywhere, keep throwing him passes. And I think Montgomery kind of gives you that. He grants you that a little bit.
Yeah. Cobb is such an anomaly, too, because I agree with you, and I wholeheartedly agree with you that he's the best weapon that the Packers have as an offensive pass-catching target. He's dropped the ball a lot lately, too.
He's got dropped. He's got his fair share of problems.
I know. It's so weird. The offense is such a weird place, and I don't want to be the hot take guy, schematically, what's Tom Clements doing? Like, what's Mike McCarthy doing? But I kind of feel like, and we'll touch on this a little bit later, but I don't hate that approach. Like, it's tough to say because Mike McCarthy's a Super Bowl winning, high pedigree. Like, we've seen a top 10 offense for as long as we can remember.
Sure.
With granted, you've had 2 Hall of Fame quarterbacks, and he's had the pleasure of doing that. But regardless, like, so many different receivers have come through this team,
Yeah.
so many different running backs, so many different coordinators, and yet they're a top 10 offense every year, year in and year out, and now all of a sudden they're struggling, and you still have a reigning MVP as your quarterback.
Yeah.
When does it's like this is all my pent up like begrudging dismay coming out. It just makes me think like these wide receivers, they can't get open. True, they're dropping a lot of passes. True, but for 4 out of 5 games to be on this weird skid when they were a perennial Super Bowl favorite, like
Coming into the year,
coming
and
into
through
the
6
year.
weeks, you're like, yeah, we'll see you in San Fran.
All right, we're getting off track.
All right, so you know what I want to do? Let's have some fun next.
Okay.
Let's just have some fun, spice it up. Again, it's weird. Like, there's no like format. There's no breaks. There's no Chris Larson getting in my ear, being like, break.
All these ESPN Wisconsin callbacks that everybody's going to be so confused about.
Well, whatever. Yeah. No, we're here to have some fun and like try to like kind of sort of provide smart analysis for a little bit, maybe not, and then just kind of.
We're going to keep you entertained and try to infuse a little bit of knowledge, but mostly just like be like fans like we weren't allowed to be when we were members of the media.
And we're finding our footing. So at Alex Petakas, at Nick Bornheimer on Twitter is where we appreciate all kinds of feedback. And believe me, I've heard it all. There's still this one guy, Boomer something. I hate to like give him credit, but it's like he's not even like a.
I hope you're listening, Boomer.
No, it's so weird because he like he always tells me he really likes listening, but all he ever tweets is like, oh, have you hit puberty yet? Like, did your balls drop? Yeah, like he just thinks it's like.
Wait, what?
No,
Wait,
it's like,
let's take a step backwards for a second.
It's simply because he thinks my voice, and it is like I have a kind of like a high pitched nasally voice, but he just like he's always.
If
like,
you have a
taking
high
shots
pitched
like
nasally
that.
voice,
like,
what kind of voice
like,
do I have?
Alex, like, loved your point on this, but are you still a 16-year-old girl?
Okay,
like,
well, I'm a writer by trade.
No, your voice is deeper than mine, man.
Okay,
Otherwise, your ears aren't good. All right, so I want to get to some Twitter reaction, some piping hot Twitter takes, and we got some hot takes of our own, man.
We do.
I got a dish.
You do.
The beast has been sleeping for. Ew, I hate that I just referred to myself. Ew, you're making me have to pee. Is that what that was?
No, that was like some hot piping, sizzling take.
I do still have to pee because again the bathroom is.
Look
taken.
at you, dude. You go like 15 minutes.
Yes, I understand. I have some type of bladder thing. I don't know what. I'm too young to know what the name of the bladder thing is.
Flomax is something you might need to look into.
I'm old enough to know that I'm gonna need.
It's weird to be prepubescent and also need Flomax. That's a weird thing that you're dealing with.
It's the two-pack podcast here. He's Nick. I'm Alex. At Nick Bornheimer. At Alex Petakas. You know what I need, Nick? You know what would really cure my ails? I need some hot takes. I need to go on the corner. I need to find me a vendor, a halal guy, who's just dishing out hot takes right now. Keep them hot. Let's start with all right. So these are some of our favorite hot takes, Packer narratives right now. Let's start with John, who hits me on Twitter that you could make the case that Mike McCarthy is making the entire team dumber. To which I responded, or that him not calling plays and actually being more hands off has been detrimental because he's really good at offense. And John says, well, not really. Packers continually underachieve every year, but hey, don't let the facts get in the way of a good story. First off, I'm not writing a story. Don't know how your opinion.
He's questioning your journalistic integrity.
Well, I don't know how one's opinion on whether a guy should have a job or not actually is a fact in that spot. So let's not let the facts get in the way of a good story. Your opinion is not fact. And then he hits me back later with the Aaron Rodgers bleep, of course. Green 19, bleep. Was actually just in reference to him looking over the sideline and seeing the dope McCarthy on the sideline. I have the same reaction seeing Mike McCarthy every Sunday. How about that for a hot take? You know what? We need some accountability, and it all falls on the head coach. Man, that's a hot take.
I like that hot. I see your hot take, and I'm going to raise you one, not from Twitter, but from my own family tree.
No.
So Thanksgiving's upon us. We just had the holiday. I hope everybody had a good and prosperous Thanksgiving. I hope everybody had some good time with family. But I digress. My family came out to New York to come visit me, and my dad, who is here, as we had a few libations at an Irish bar last night, we started talking Packers, and he loves to pick my brain when it comes to the Packers, and he threw a piping hot take at me that I would just love to share with you. Jimbo.
Come on, the Bornheimers are usually like a very reasonable, level-headed group.
So we're talking about schematics, we're talking about what's going on with the receiving core, and he goes, you know when we never had these issues? When Joe Philbin was at the helm, at offensive coordinator. I don't think I can trust McCarthy as a play caller and as a leader. Well, McCarthy's not even a play caller anymore. This is the Guinness talking. So
the Guinness talking.
So
wait, were you at like one of those typical Irish bars, like kind of near, like a little bit near Madison Square Garden?
Oh yeah, definitely. Where it's like kind of faux pas to order Guinness because it's Americanized, and like all the Irish bartenders are like, "Oh, you're ordering Guinness here?"
Yes, exactly.
So he goes
like Gats.
Like Gats.
Oh man, the only not the only, far from the only, but our favorite Irish bar that we found in the city since Wisconsin rejected us, that has like Irish only bartenders.
Yep, this place as well, Quinn's. If you're ever in New York, make it to Quinn's. It's kind of close to Times Square.
Are you getting paid for that drop or what?
I should be. We'll go to him afterwards. So Jimbo goes, Joe Philbin. How are we not hiring this guy up? Why is he not the offensive coordinator? You know what? He should be the head coach of this football team. And I go,
what?
Whoa! Number one, Joe Philbin just got fired from the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah, that was atrocious.
Yeah, it wasn't good. Number two, yes, there's accountability with the scheme and with the play calling and X, Y, and Z, but we've already talked about it. Wide receivers aren't catching the ball. They're not getting off the line of scrimmage. Devonta Adams doesn't know how to run a route to save his life, or he just chooses not to. It's one or the other. I think that there is accountability to be had with the play calling, and I do think that some of that stuff needs to be called into question. But why is Joe Philbin coming into the fold?
Because they were 15-1 with him as the offensive coordinator, when everyone knew that he was mainly like a manager, like he was like a let's run practice smoothly, operational kind of guy. He wasn't necessarily a scheme guy. And right. You can make the argument at that point like Tom Clements was more because of how much time he spent with Aaron Rodgers.
Right. It's just funny how quick somebody is to jump to. Yeah. And Jim, I love you, but come on, bro.
Come on, man. All right. You got one of your own? Because I got one of my own. You ready for mine?
Yep. Go ahead.
I got a great one for you. You ready for this?
Oh God.
Oh yeah. You know that Dayton Jones, man. He's been playing out of position for like 2 years, man. Don't you think so, though? No, I don't even think so. But, like, it's not even a hot take. But Dayton Jones, man, like, I never gave up on him. I've seen people label him a bust already, and he's just come onto the scene ever since they started giving him reps at outside linebacker, and his production isn't even coming from outside linebacker. Like, they gave him reps at outside, and now as a defensive end, he makes
plays when he's in the game
right now.
He makes plays when he's in the game.
I mean, his pass rushing grades per Pro Football Focus have been awesome. He makes a lot of plays. I don't know that it's necessarily a hot take. It's kind of a lukewarm take, but Dayton Jones has the potential, still has the potential to be one of the best players on this defense. And because he was a first-round pick and didn't produce immediately, people wrote him off. But he's been so good the past couple of weeks. And again, one of the things I love about this team is the constant rotation of defensive, not even edge guys, but just like pass rushers. How they'll hit you with, because Mike Neal every play, and Nick Perry.
Let's talk about Mike Neal for a second. And he's been incredible as well.
You think so? And has he been? And,
he has been.
And Nick Perry, like every down, that's not a positive. And J-Ron Elliott every down, maybe not a positive. Dayton Jones every down, maybe not a positive. But all those guys in bursts, I love it. Keep them fresh. I don't think it's a hot take, but Dayton Jones, hot take.
Oh, man, I missed the Fire Capers narrative. How fun was that for a while?
It sucked.
And now the defense is the only redeeming quality this team has. It's the only reason that they're still in the game, I feel like, a lot of the times.
Yeah, for sure. You got another one for us?
You know what, Alex? I feel like I'm a man of reason. I'm a rational guy. I don't need to be the hype guy. I don't need to be Skip Bayless with this. I don't need a hot take.
All right, well, it's the 2-pack. That's it for hot takes.
Okay. Before we take off, we've got to get our picks in. Thursday night football, Packers, Lions. God only knows how the Lions came into Lambeau last time to beat the Packers. So Alex and I are wavering. The lines have been set. It's -3 Packers. 47 is the over/under. So we're going to seek a little bit of help. We've got two guys here, our resident handicappers. Alphonse, who frequents the Drew Olson show. He calls in. He's got a lot of hot takes, but he's a guy who knows his way around the book. So we're going to talk to him. And Johnny McMurphy, he was once the subject of a Deflategate 30 for 30. He's a Bostonian. He's a guy who's got a little bit of history with betting. Alphonse and him collaborate on a couple things. So you know what? Just to start things off, we're going to get Alphonse on the phone. Can we get Alphonse on the phone?
All right, it's week 13 of the NFL season. Can you believe it? Already week 13. I know your confidence is wavering in your Packers, huh? Don't you worry, my friend. You want the right pick? Win or lose for Green Bay, you come to the right place. So little LA boy, he's got you covered. You know it each and every week, huh? So the Packers offense, man, they didn't have shit on Thanksgiving night. With that, huh? They come out there, all these weapons at the beginning of the year, the offense is doing nada. Who got? I mean, what the hell's going on over here? And why they circumcised James Jones' uniform last week, huh? I wish this game were outdoors. I want him to bring that hoodie back. I'll tell you what, I'm not too sure the Packers offense sucking is going to change this coming Thursday night, but I think there's a silver lining. I really do. I mean, that pudgy quarterback for the Lions, he's mistake-proof. He's going to help the Packers defense keep Green Bay in the game. Tied for the second most picks thrown in the league. Only guy to throw more? That schmuck Peyton Manning. Go figure. Really, though, after a Thanksgiving win, Stafford's probably going to be more bloated than the ass of Michael Ma over here. The guy's not f***ing bulls now. On top of that, he's always good for making that one mistake to break the Lions back. I don't think nobody should be trusting this guy in their recent success, because you just can't trust a frat boy quarterback, man. I trust Aaron Rodgers over him every f***ing day. So the line opens up at 3.5. It moves right back down to 3 right away. That's Green Bay being favored. As bad as they've been, everything half-ass, still -3 on the road at a team that's catching fire at this time. And I'll tell you what, I think I'm taking the Pack. As far as the over-under, I don't know, that thing is way too high, 47. I thought it'd be coming in somewhere around 41.5. So needless to say, I'm taking the under in that one. Lions make mistakes. Packers defense, they probably hold on. 18-14, the final score. Once again, Packers in the under. You heard it here first. Little Alley boy, mark it. You want a second opinion? You guys know Johnny. You talked about him before. That f***ing chowderhead. The guy knows his shit though, so I'll give him that. Whenever I need a favor over state lines, he always comes through. Let's see what he thinks. Johnny, what do you got?
Hey, what the is going on, you guys? Look, I don't know why we're not talking about the passing touchdown Tommy who got robbed on Sunday night. They should be like 100-0 by now. But whatever, I'll digress. You want me to pick the Lions and the Packers? I'll pick the Lions and the Packers. So let's get into it. Fine. Look, I love you. I'm used to cleaning up a lot after your messes, but I think you're pretty close with this one. The Packers are bad. Listen, they're wicked bad, like abysmal. But they're not the Lions bad. The Lions are like a different level of bad. I've got the Packers. I like the -3 for the line. As horrible as they've been, guess what? You still got to go with Rodgers here. He's like a fucking superhero or some shit. Even though the fucking receivers are a bunch of drunkies trying to get open, I mean, but whatever. The Packers are still going to cover the spread on the road at the Silverdome or whatever the hell you call it now. I mean, your quarterback is less athletic looking than David Ortiz, and trust me, I'll never speak ill of Big Poppy. He's a fucking god. But come on, Lions. How they've won it all this year after firing everyone under the roof? Mind-blowing. But nonetheless, 3 consecutive games, it's a fucking anomaly. All that being said, the over-under, I like the Packers, and I like the stay under. The teams have a combined 1.5 viable pass-catching options. And you know what? It could be a real piss of a game on Thursday night, but let's say Packers 20, Lions 10. Fellas, we'll talk next week. All right? Hey, go Sox.
All right, thanks, guys. I like the picks. I gotta say, I think I have no choice but to go Packers in the under.
That's got to be the common consensus, right?
I think so. Well, I hope you enjoyed the first edition of the 2-pack. Thanks to everyone at PackersTalk.com.
We look forward to doing some more of these, so keep an eye out next week.
And again, hit us on Twitter at Alex Petakas, at Nick Bornheimer. We look forward to talking to you guys next week.
And anything you got for Alphonse and Johnny, we'll make sure to
we'll pass that along as well.
Pass it along to them, indeed. It's for the 2-pack.
We in the crowd screaming out football back. It's kickoff time. We in love with the money. These chickens all on their sideline. Shelly, this my honeys.
Are you looking for some signed Packer memorabilia?
Look no further than Waukesha Sports Card.
If a Green Bay Packer can sign it, Waukesha Sports Cards has it.
Check our website for upcoming Packer player and legend signings.
Go to WaukeshaSportsCards.com.
Eddie Lacy, Mike Daniels, Gilbert Brown, Don Barclay, Micah Hyde, your Green Bay Packers, yesterday's legends and today's superstars. From corporate or nonprofit events to private parties, add some spice, hire a Packers player from Mayfield Sports Marketing. For details, just go to PackersTalk.com and click on Player Appearances.